Alright, hey everyone, Genome Gaming here, still fighting through my technical difficulties, but it's time for another video. So, today I'm going to be talking, this is once again a series mostly for newer players for Marvel Strike Force, and most especially for free-to-play players, because once again, the learning curve in this game is a little bit steep, and resources are limited, so I'm going to try to help you along the best I can. But today I want to get into a subject that you don't see a lot of in a lot of the how-to videos, and I think it's really instructional for people trying to progress in raids specifically, because I think raid is the most important game mode in this game. You need to do your raids daily with your alliance. If the alliance is not doing raids daily, you need to find another one. But you also want to be a contributor to said alliance. You don't want to be in there leeching points off of them. I don't agree with that whatsoever. So even though I am kind of doing that in my alliance right now, but they recruited me, so, and I'm giving my raid keys every day, so basically participate in all your alliance activities, and and stuff will come, and you'll improve your stuff. But raids really is the key, because it gives you all kinds of it just gives you materials like you wouldn't believe, and between orbs and ability mats and all that, it's so necessary, and of course your points and all that every day. So what I want to talk about today for raids is some of the prime raid targets that the enemy is going to use. And by this, I mean these are characters I think you should be prioritizing in the kill order, right? Because if these characters are left unchecked, they can really ruin your day in raids. Of course, this list is not completely all-inclusive, and you always have to take into consideration like health levels, timers, cooldowns, that sort of thing. So this is not set in stone, but when everything is said and done and you have 100% health in everybody and full cooldowns, whatever the case may be, these other characters I recommend that you off first, because it can dramatically change the course of the fight, and it can make it a heck of a lot easier on your end, and you want to progress in raids. You only got 5 minutes to do it, so we need to make quick decisions, right? So let's get right into it. So one of the very first targets, and this is no particular order by the way, but one of the very first targets you should be taking out, if possible, is Merc Lieutenant. Merc Lieutenant has an amazing special where he basically just buffs the entire team, and you don't want that, especially with the offense up and speed up. It just brutalizes you. Typically, he's very squishy. Unfortunately, he's often paired up with the Merc Riot Guard, so you might have to try to either burn him down before the taunt comes out, or get to the taunt and then get to him, clear the taunt, whatever it is you got to do. But really, this guy is one of your main priorities to kill in just about any raid situation. Crossbones is interesting in that he's only valuable for his ultimate, right? But in raids, it can do a lot of damage, a lot of AoE damage to you, and you don't want to be taking lots of that, right? So the key is to burn him down within 2 turns. So a lot of times, even if he's not taunting, he should be one of your prime targets. Now, you can put him off for a turn or two, depending, especially at the very beginning, if you think you can get through him later after getting rid of maybe a more vital early opponent. But really, Crossbones is one of the key targets you want. Once again, he's usually pretty squishy, even though a lot of times he has, especially if he's got his taunt off, he'll have a counter or two up there. So you might have to eat a counter or two, but really, and he's a vital target. And one of the problems with Crossbones is very regularly in raids, there's 2 of him at the same time. So then you really got to prioritize those 2 guys and just try to burn him down whatever you can. Because he's not doing anything other than his ultimate that's going to really affect the outcome of the game too much. I mean, his taunt is annoying, but he just doesn't have any defensive tools other than a few counters, and you'll blow right through him. He takes damage like crazy, but he has a decent-sized health pool, but he's vital. Get him down before he gets his ultimate off. Falcon is a guy you do not want lingering around. If you can get him killed before he takes a turn, so much the better, because once again, it's the special that makes him so deadly. You do not need him giving, because a lot of times you do not need him giving speed up to his entire team, because a lot of times you're going to be full of buffs on your side, and if you look here at the upgrades for it starts getting more and more speed bar. He'll basically give 100% speed bar almost, it seems like, to his opposing side, or his side. You don't want that. So, and his ultimate does a lot of damage, like as the AI. Now let's talk real quick about AI differences. Like, this ultimate is not that damaging when you're controlling him. The same as when Spider-Man and Vision are on your team, they are not very dodgy at all. You get them on the opponent's team, and that 25% dodge chance is more like 50 to 75%. I'm not kidding. It's not uncommon to see 4 or 5 dodges in a row from Spider-Man or Vision. So And the same thing with Falcon, is that he's usually souped up version in the PC, so his ultimate can do a lot of dang damage. So he is a serious priority to get rid of, mostly for a special, but his ultimate can do big damage too. So get rid of Falcon ASAP. Luke Cage, for no other reason other than his annoying taunt, which is easily peeled, by the way. He has no resistance for much. It's just getting rid of the defense up. You don't want this. Kind of goes for any character that can get defense up to other characters. These are typically prime targets. You either slow them, you ability block them, or you usually don't try to kill them right away, because usually they're squishier and higher priority targets. But really, characters like Luke Cage, Merc Riot Guard, those are prime examples of characters you should be slowing down, ability blocking, that sort of thing. Basically, in the more moderate raids. Like, you start getting up at U7 and stuff, things might change a little bit, but a lot of principles are still the same. So basically, you want to get him killed before he puts his ultimate up, and he always leads off with his ultimate. So, yeah, what can I say? Kill Luke Cage if you can, but not at the expense of eating a bunch of damage from maybe a higher priority character. But you don't want to have to deal with a turn or two of defensive if possible. Hawkeye is another character who, man, he is so annoying as a computer. You use him and he does like nothing damage, but you do the computer and his damage is ramped, but that's not really the problem. It's him putting up like blinds on people. It's awful, man. If this, usually turn 2 this goes off, but you do not want to be getting hit with this, because, man, it seems to give you a lot more than 1 or 2 blinds, and it can just devastate you. And the worst part is, at turn 2 is when you're setting up a lot of big burst combos. Some teams do it right from the onset, but a lot of teams have to take a turn or 2 to charge up their ultimates or whatever. And getting hit with this can delay you an entire turn. It screws everything up. He's awful to deal with. Luckily, he's super squishy, super easy to kill, but you can't blind him. So it's just kill him. You either stun him, ability block him, or just kill him outright, because not too much else works too well on him. You don't want to get him getting his ultimate off. He's low priority other than that, but really that thing is it's really annoying. Hand Archer, almost for the same reason as Hawkeye, but a little bit inverted. And it's because his special removes positive effects, and he can lead off with this. So, brutal to have this. It hits a lot better than you would think, because look at all the extra focus he gets for it. He peels buffs like crazy off of you. So, if you can get him down before he takes a turn, that could save you a lot of headache. I mean, he's crappy other than that, of course. But he's a hand, he's a minion, he's super squishy. So, 2 or 3... even base attacks from a normal character will usually off this guy. 1 attack from characters like Black Bolt will kill him right away. Maybe Punisher will one-shot him with the basic too. But yeah, don't underestimate him, because you don't want him peeling buffs from your team. Hand Sorceress, for the same reason Luke Cage, is the same exact reason for this character. She does a little heal, and she winds up applying defense up to her entire team, basically. You don't want to deal with that. So she'll typically open with this move too. So even if she's not healing for much, it's the defense up you don't want to see. So if you can get rid of her before she launches her first turn, you're much better off, believe me, because other than that, she's useless. So Miss Marvel is maybe the most annoying taunter, one of the most annoying taunters you'll see in raids, because she has 2 things going for her. Well, actually, technically 3 things. First off is when she's paired with hero allies and they drop below 50%, it's a lot like the Shield Armored Guard, I think he's called. Yeah, she gets an auto taunt. Bloody annoying, can really ruin your day. She has a pretty big health pool too. She also has chances to give free attacks for hero brawlers and stuff, so that's bad. If you don't kill her fast enough, she can basically full heal herself. Usually it takes about 2 turns to come around, but you don't want her hitting this, right? And finally, her ultimate giving energy to like all of her hero allies is brutal, man. You do not need that, because if she feeds it, I've seen her, I think she's in a couple of lanes with Crossbones. So if she feeds a bunch of this energy into Crossbones, he's going to ultimate turn 1 then. And same goes with a lot of other characters with big AoE damage, so she is a prime target. In fact, a lot of times I don't wait for her taunt. I just go for her almost immediately. She's one of the, I'd say, top 5 priorities for raid targets in this game. She just, get rid of her. She doesn't have a ton of defense, and she doesn't have really good defensive tools. I think she has a little bit of deflect on her, but that's not usually a big deal, so burn her down if you can. Sorry about not having these characters open. This is my free-to-play account, so it is what it is. Yondu. Yondu is awful as a player-controlled character for the most part, but he is a little bit brutal as a PC-controlled character. Once again, he's always souped up, so his AoE does big damage, and it's all piercing damage, and it sucks. Now, that's the only thing you really got to watch out for, his ultimate. So he's not that high on this list, because a lot of times you can survive his damage, but you really don't want to be dealing with it if you can't help it, because he goes down really easy too. It's undodgeable, it's piercing damage, he's got all kinds of stuff added to it as far as damage goes, and it can hurt. It can really hurt when the PC controls him. He's not much good for anything else. Sometimes he'll strip, but I think a lot of times there's resistance checks will defeat this, but just get rid of him if you can. But he's still on the lower priority tier of a lot of the other characters on this thing, but if you're looking for places to dump damage, he's not a bad place to go. Now here's a guy you will almost never see in raids, and that's why I didn't add some other characters like Ultron and Invisible Woman and all that, because you really don't see them all that often. I've recall seeing Sinister a few times, but if you come across this guy in a raid scenario, kill him. Kill him at the best of your ability. It's pretty hard because a lot of times he's paired up with like Strife or whatever. Get rid of him if you can. If you can get him off or kill him off somehow before he clones, you're way ahead of the game, because you don't want to be fighting a souped up version of him with a souped up clone. It's not pretty, because all your characters are going to be good characters, right? So he's going to steal a good character. You don't want that crap. I was going to say there was something else about him other than his heal, of course. Oh, I don't think that this can be blocked. So if you try, I seem to recall if you try ability block this guy, I've seen remember him clearing this like immediately on his turn, so it doesn't do any good. So don't rely on a ability block. Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody. I haven't faced him in quite a while with an ability block because I don't do it anymore. But I don't think you can technically ability block this guy on turn 1 to stop his clone mechanism. So you kind of gotta either burn him down or just deal with the fact that he's gonna have a clone up. But dangerous character. Once you get past that, it's not so bad. His special is pretty good too, spreading heals around and other positive effects to mutants. But it's just his clone ability. That's what makes this guy, and it's pretty nasty. So get rid of him. Miles. Garbage character for the most part as a player character. Very high tier as a PC played enemy. So here's the problem with Miles. You can't really stop him unless you have a character who is set up to kill players in stealth, or at least attack players in stealth or remove it. He stealths right away. As soon as he comes to the battlefield, he just stealths. And so you can't really touch this guy. It sucks, because what happens is he gets his ultimate off first turn, and it can really mess your day up. If he starts putting disrupts on your characters and you're relying on like Minerva heals, or if you're relying on things like taunt, guess what? They ain't going off. It's a brutal attack. It really hits hard when he's controlled. Once again, he's a super souped up character, like several on this list. Almost always when the PC has him. And even his special kind of sucks, because if he hits like the wrong character with this huge slow, it just blows. So if you can kill this guy, great, but usually you can't kill him till after his ultimate goes off, unfortunately. That's just the nature of the beast. But if you can get him down after that, he's still a medium priority target. You definitely don't want him ulting again. So get rid of Miles if you can. But yeah, he's really annoying on spawn with that stealth, so you're probably gonna have to eat a disrupted. So be prepared for that. So don't be button mashing. That's something else you need to pay attention to, because if you're disrupted and you're just automatically pushing the taunt button or whatever for your tank, it ain't gonna work. So be prepared. You might have to wait to use your ability. So just something else to be mindful for. Spider-Man Miles is annoying as heck. Minerva. You don't see her too often in raids, and it's a good thing, but sometimes you'll see her there'll be 2 of her, and the biggest problem with Minerva, other than her throwing out her heal, which is I think her best thing, her passive heal is amazing. That's why I love using her on almost every raid I'm in, including U7. Just she keeps your team rolling, right? But The real problem with this character as a computer is her res. You do not want her resing characters that you just work so hard to kill off. So really, if you see her and she's undefended in the opener, she's basically, I would say, your probably top target in the game. You've got to get rid of her. She will res right away on that first turn. She's actually, the PC's not too stupid with it. If there's no character to res, she won't throw this out, and she'll just throw her ultimate, which is also annoying because once again it pulls. It's a percentage-based health steal. So what makes her great as a player character also makes her very good as a PC character. But really, this isn't the problem. The ultimate, I think it's mostly her special that makes her so annoying, and it's not a huge long cooldown either on this, so this can roll around again, so you can't ignore her. You've got to get rid of her. So she just does so much for her team that I say she's top 3 targets in the game as far as raids go. Scientist Supreme. Scientist Supreme is a kind of a strange character. A lot of times she is on teams that don't have much synergy with her, like a full aim team or whatever, but it doesn't really matter because her ultimate's great. It's going to debuff you like crazy, and then she can flip all that on the next turn because it debuffs her whole team for the most part too, unless they're aim. Well, she can flip all that like the very next turn with her special, and so they'll have a stack of green, you'll still be in a stack of red, and that's really dangerous. But really, the most annoying thing about Scientist Supreme is once again her passive, much like Minerva, but that was her special for Minerva. Is she has a passive ability to res. And this goes off more often than you think against the PC. It's not fun to have to keep killing characters over and over and over again. And they'll res with more and more health as she's leveled up, and they'll be ready to roll with ability energy too. So you can start getting hit with ultimates again almost right away. So not fun. She's a prime character to get rid of early. She's super squishy. She goes down really easily, but a lot of times she is paired up with Taunters. So you got to be mindful of that. So if you can get her down before, especially before she gets her ultimate off the first turn, that's great, but that's not the priority for her. The priority for her is getting her down so she doesn't keep resing. You cannot leave her up for a whole fight. Keep putting her off because she doesn't do any damage, right? And a lot of her attacks or abilities are not going to make or break you, even though it sucks getting all those debuffs on you. Sometimes you can cleanse all that, but her having that chance to res is just brutal on you. You don't want to deal with it, man. So get rid of Scientist Supreme. Next up, maybe the most dangerous character in raids, with a special caveat for this guy, Loki. All right, Loki is all about his special, right? And he's going to launch this turn 1 every single time unless you stop him somehow. The problem is he's very, very, very fast. So you need to have a super fast character that either has an ability block or huge damage, which most of the characters that do huge damage will not go before Loki. Or you got to eat it, right? That's basically your choices here. Eating this is dangerous, and let me tell you something. Not only will it one-shot you a lot, here is the kicker for this guy. I use Black Bolt on every raid team of mine, right? Well, I use him every day in raids. He's my favorite character for raids. A lot of times, Loki will target a guy, and then Black Bolt will freaking hammer him down. Of course, Black Bolt's going to one-shot almost any of your characters, right? Because they don't have any buffs up or anything, right? And you cannot res that guy, because I always run Minerva on the same team, right? Can't res him anymore. So the same thing that makes Black Bolt dangerous against the computer is also dangerous to you. So Loki is a huge, huge, huge threat. He's probably the #1 threat that you will find in raids, and he's the one that usually will screw you up so royally. In the very first lane, middle lane of U7, I think there's a node. I think the very first node is either 1 or 2 Lokis at the beginning. And it's just like, it's a coin toss, whether you just are 4 versus the rest of their team for the rest of the fight on turn 1. It's that brutal. So Loki, huge threat. And you don't want him hanging around for his ultimate either, because that really screws you up, giving freaking evade to everybody, and then bringing those little still clones out with evade, so it takes you forever to get through all that stuff. After you get through those 2 things, he's nothing to worry about, but my gosh, is this character dangerous. So Loki, if you have a early game ability block or some way blind doesn't even work for this ability, by the way, because your characters aren't blinded. He won't hit you with any damage from that attack, but you don't want to get hit with this, in other words. So it's awful. Kill Loki if you can. Like I said, if you can ability block him early, stun him, do what you got to do, or just try to burn him down. That's the only chance you have, because Loki is extremely dangerous. The same reason he's dangerous, basically, if he's on team 2 with like Captain Marvel, he will 1 or 2 shot people, because he'll be probably going first. I think he usually goes first in that scenario. And then he does his thing, and hopefully not one-shots your teammate, but it probably will on your side. And then right up after him is Captain Marvel, who is going to be doing her ultimate. It's not good. So Loki, another prime target. Pyro, get rid of this guy. In fact, when like the Brotherhood characters start coming out, he's my priority target, even more than Magneto. He just does too much good, and it's amazing how these are all specials. It seems to be somewhat dangerous, but his special is so dangerous to you. Clearing out at high levels, he clears out like all your buffs, and then he stacks a couple bleeds on you on top of it. You do not want that. Plus, he starts throwing out heal blocks when you start getting low on. I'll bring that up there. When your health starts getting low, 50%, he starts throwing up heal block. You don't want that either. Oh my gosh. Brutally dangerous character. He is one of the squishiest characters in this game, though, so kind of like Yondu, whatever, 2 or 3 dedicated damage dealer. Basic attacks will probably kill this guy, but a lot of times he's in multiples. A lot of times he's paired up with Juggernaut, so the key is getting him down before Juggernaut, right? Throws up his taunt, because he'll just pick you up hard in the background and everything he does. And a lot of times he's with Magneto, too, so Magneto's going to be pulling you all together with his ultimate, right? So this special attack and his basic attack and basically all of his attacks are hitting everybody. And you'll be bleeding like crazy, and you won't be able to hold a buff. Don't leave this guy alive. Mordo. Most annoying character in raids, I think, bar none. He is right up there with Loki as far as characters you need to get rid of, with a slight caveat. I run Minerva as in my raid team every time, in my main raid team, right? Just because she keeps you rolling with all those passive heals, right? This guy opens up with his ultimate and he heal blocks you. You don't want this. And if he's got like the heal block for 2 turns, it can really screw you up bad, especially if he's on a team with a lot of damage on his side. Because you're not going to be able to heal up. Now, some of your characters will resist this, but not always. And it always seems to land on the worst character. And, some characters like Black Bolt or whatever don't have a ton of resistance and other damage dealers like that. So be prepared for pain if this lands. Kill him fast. Other than Loki, I'd say he's the #1 priority as far as the kill order. Because also his special is brutal. High levels it will stun you, but blind is bad. It always seems to blind more than one person. It's just not stuff you want to deal with. Now, his damage is nothing. That's not what makes him dangerous. But he even has a little bit of self-sustain. Just a little bit, not too much. With the self-heal, with depths of characters. So, Mordo. Oh, I hate Mordo. Mordo is such a pain to deal with. But get rid of him. Once again, super fragile, should go down fast, but don't let this guy sit around. And his cooldowns are really low, too, so he can hit you with this skin, I think, in 3 turns after he launches it turn 1, which he always will, unless ability blocked. So, Mordo, control him or kill him right off the bat. Doctor Strange, basically for the same reason as Pyro, a little less prime target than Pyro, but at the same time, you do need to deal with him. The biggest deal with him is he leads off with his special, right? So if you're sitting there on a big buff team, you load up the buffs, this is going to turn the tables on you, and he's not too fast, so you're probably going to go first. So that means you're not paying attention, you're just loading up the buffs on yourself, and all of a sudden, bam, he hits you with Winds of Tomb, and all of a sudden, that's all red on your side. Now your buffs are gone for the most part. Once again, this can be resisted, but don't count on it. Most of the players that you use for raids are not going to resist this too well. So, brutal. Once you survive that, though, if you can get through that or control that portion of it, the next thing you gotta watch for, about 2 turns later, he'll throw out his heal and res. You don't want him resing characters. Like any character that can res, you don't want him doing it. So burn this guy down. I don't think he's quite as vital to burn down as Mordo is, but he is a high priority target, to say the least, and he's super fragile. Get him down quick. This one's a little more specialized, and that's Graviton. And a lot of times you'll see him on Scientist Supreme teams. So you'll have to kind of make the choice between killing usually Graviton first or Scientist Supreme. I typically recommend Scientist Supreme first because if you wind up killing this guy first, she has a chance to res him on the very next turn she takes. Like every turn she takes, she has a chance to res a dead character. So I usually say Scientist Supreme first, but on teams, especially with heavy aim makeups, this is where all the damage is coming from, is from Graviton. And he has a little bit of control in his ultimate. He has a stun, but really his special and his basic are what are really dangerous with him. And his passive too, because he can extend, let's see where it should. That's a war thing. But like when your enemy drops below 50% health, increase the duration of their negative effects by 1. And if you're facing aim teams, there's lots of negative effects flying around. So this guy is like a mini legendary on his team, and extremely important. If you usually get rid of Graviton on an aim team, usually it's just outlasting him at that point because there's not much damage output from them other than him. So another big character to watch out for. All right, we're almost done here. Here's a legendary you'll actually see quite a bit of in raids, and that is Magneto. Magneto is super annoying because a lot of times he paired up with part of his Brotherhood team, usually Pyro. So the only thing that really makes him super dangerous, of course, other than the stats he gives his Brotherhood, is his ultimate, of course. Him pulling you together and blinding everybody is basically skipping your first turn if you're like on a heavy offense team. You really can't deal with that most of the time. And sometimes you can outlast it when you start getting stronger teams, but this is really dangerous, and once again, it's clumping you together. So Pyro is going to shred you with his all 3 of his attacks, really. It's going to hit bleeds on everything. It's not going to be pretty. So Magneto is another prime target, and he gets a lot of boosted speed up with like because a lot of times he'll come down with a Pyro or 2. So, but usually he's not going to come out quite as fast as like Loki is naturally, but man, Magneto is he's a little bit terrifying sometimes. And that might be my last one. Yeah, that was my last one. So really those are the main ones. Now let's talk about some little more specialized ones. Let's talk about taunting characters. Just as a basic premise, the standard taunter who actually has to taunt manually, you got to learn how to control them. And this is especially made easier by characters like Ultron, right? Because his basic can strip the taunt from most taunts, right? And defense up, which they usually get when they taunt. Or like one of his bots can slow down the actual speed bar of a taunt. So a lot of time, or of a taunter. So a lot of times, if you have a tank character and you have ability to manipulate speed bar, a lot of times you want to usually use that on them, because if they're just sitting there, they're not taunting, right? And then you can focus fire the damage dealer you're wanting to go for. So very important aspect of raids is to know who to control and when. And it's a little bit of a delicate dance to control taunters, because like I said, you don't want to be stuck trying to get through especially a full health taunt before you can finish off that red bar Pyro if you're not running Black Bolt or something, or he somehow survives a burp. So another vital guy. Here's one I was going to think about adding, but a lot of times you can just survive him because he's just damaged. But really, Punisher, even though his passive will go up quite a bit, a lot of times he's paired up with city heroes or whatever. If you can help it, either blind him, ability block him for turn 1, and not eat his ultimate, because it still does a lot of damage, right? So but that's just a straight damage thing, so it's usually not. Usually you can deal with that, but it is what it is. Another one with nuance you need to watch out for is Hela. Of course, she's a prime character in the game, and you want to try to hit her with attacks that are not also hitting her her summon Greg, because it's kind of pointless if you're doing that, because he'll just heal her back up a little bit and cost turn rewind. It's not fun. So the key to Hela is either prioritize her with single target attacks, or if there's an AoE attack, try to position it so it will not hit Greg if possible. Sometimes she sticks him right next to her and you can't help it, but sometimes you can actually even defeat that by like going for the other side with adjacent attacks and all that. So it takes a little bit of nuance with Hela. Usually she's not a prime target right off the bat, though. I mean, she's good, but a lot of times you just cannot deal with her early. So, but there's other more dangerous characters. I'm trying to think if there's any other characters I wanted to mention in particular. Of course, Captain Marvel. If you can survive her opener, it's not a huge priority, but a lot of times she could save for middle or later on in the fight. But she is big damage, but it is what it is. Drax, you're going to see a lot of him in raids. Be prepared. There's not much you can do. He comes down with taunt automatically, but it's easy to strip taunt of him. He has like no resistance at all. Just burning him down is not usually an option right away because he's got a high health pool. Usually it's better. You're better served either trying to clear that taunt somehow, or hopefully there's another way to put taunt on some way of getting around him. Another option for Drax 2 is to hit him with ability block. You won't stop his first taunt, but you'll stop his second one for a turn. And he's so slow, he'll never get a third turn, probably. So he's one to watch out for. Hulk is another nuanced raid character, but I didn't really feel like add him to the list because he's not really a prime target. In fact, he's usually a target I try to save till a little bit later, but he is so hard to work around because hitting him, he taunts, and then you're hitting him around 50%, and if he gets that offense up before he does his speed up, he does a huge speed bar advancement, and he hits his ultimate on you, it's painful, painful, and there's very little you can do about it. But he's susceptible to all kinds of control, blinds, stuns, ability blocks, that sort of thing, but he's more like a middle tier or even later kill in the fight kind of character, but he is one to watch out for. So once again, be careful with your AoEs, be careful with your adjacent attacks and all that, and be careful about just trying to burn this guy down when he's taunting, because it's pretty hard to do, and you might just be hurting yourself if you're not careful. Anyone else that I was mentioning? Human Torch. I meant to add him, but you don't see him too often, so I kind of took him off the list. He's a prime target when you're facing Fantastic Four in the raid scenario. You don't want him getting his ultimate off, but he is super, super, super squishy. Just kill him quick, because you don't want him doing a supernova on you, if possible. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? Groot. Here's a funny nuance with Groot. I usually save him for dead last, either last or close to dead last, because it's what makes him difficult to deal with is his death. Is throwing up defense up on everybody and death proof on everybody. You don't want to deal with that if you possible. So I almost always save him for last. You know he's kind of an annoying character, but who else? Who else? Who else? Of course, Rocket. You want to try to burn him down before he gets his ultimate off, but he's just damaged, so I'm not really going into much. Emma Frost is usually one of the last characters you're going to kill, but you almost never see her in raids or whatever. Who else? Who else? Who else? No one else here is super, super dangerous, I don't think. Psylocke is quite annoying, mostly because of her passive, but Invisible Woman is a prime target too, but I don't think she's in too many raid nodes, so, but keep her in mind, because she's almost always going to get her ultimate off, but you don't want to get her special off too. It just sucks. Too much just mitigation for the team. Who else? Who else? Who else here? It's basically the end. Juggernaut. Juggernaut is the one tank I really wanted to talk about, because you'll see him quite a bit in raids, along with Magneto, his basically Brotherhood allies, right? And just allies in general. His taunt is exceptionally difficult. You're not going to clear it, basically. Once he gets taunt up, and if Magneto's on a team, he's going to get it for 2 turns, you're going to have to deal with him directly. And at that point, he's got tons of buffs on himself. It's going to be so hard to get through him. You're basically going to eat ultimate. If he gets a taunt up, you're almost assuredly going to eat his ultimate, and it does big damage. He is a prime tank that you want to use like slows on, ability blocks on, stuns on, that sort of thing, before he taunts. Once he taunts, don't bother with that stuff. He's going to resist it. But let's see if it shows here. But yeah, 500 resistance against stun. It's just it's hard to hit him with it, but you can sometimes hit it with him before he taunts. But once he taunts, forget it. You're not hitting him with anything. So he's one of the more dangerous tanks in the game, because not only does he pulling a lot of damage off the characters you want to be killing, but he's also doing big damage with his ultimate. So he's another pretty much priority target, but priority target to control. And that's one of the reasons I like, in fights with him in it, a lot of times I like to use Ultron, because his, I think it's the Incinerator bot, or whatever bot that slows the characters down, or speed bar by 25%, he's one of the prime characters to use it on. That way he can't taunt before you kill off Pyro or Magneto. So anyway, that's basically it for now, but, you know, use your discretion on who you kill first. Like I said, health totals matter. There's always lots of nuance going on. But I'd say that is kind of a prime example of some of these characters right here, of ones that you need to be targeting first in raids, for those of you who don't raid too much or are new to the game. Those are the most dangerous to me, in higher levels, even lower levels. So anyway, hopefully this video helped out a little bit. And if you have any further questions, please put them in the comments below. I'd like to hear from you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and there'll be more of this content coming out in the near future. All right, well, until next time, this is Genome Gaming, out.